to welcome to Colored Roses and Thorns. I'm here today to speak about things that are unusual and happens either by spirit or by energy. I can only speak about the things that I have actually experienced and that I have actually seen and those close to me have experienced and seen. Energy works in a mysterious type way. Spirits work in a mysterious type way, not in a way always that we in the physical world function. I can only give you an example. When my daughter was maybe about, I think she had to be about 4 because she was at the time in Head Start. And there was a lot of tension in this little house that we had moved there with my husband and I, and she was there. But it was one particular day where the tension was very, very high, where you just get upset. Um, you mad at everything, you mad at the world and everything, and you just don't want to be bothered. So I was standing in the kitchen and I could feel the tension in the air, and I'm sure she felt it too. Kids are very sensitive to vibes, to energy. She walks into the kitchen and she starts crying with this really loud, annoying type cry. And I'm already in there, and I was just my shoulders were tense, and everything in the room, in the house was just tense. And then I looked over at her and she looked at me and her little eyebrows were like that. And she went like this. And next thing I knew, a bowl that was sitting up on the counter flew across the room. And she and I both were a bit shocked. She looked at me and I looked at her. And she walked back in the other room and she sat down. And I was like, that was energy. Both of us had a lot of tension. The house had a lot of tension. Even kids can carry energy that if it's to the point where it's so thick. And then that house itself was not really a place that we had even cleansed with. We didn't use sage or salt. It was a place where we had gone down to Florida. It was supposed to be a temporary place. But we later found out that all sorts of people had been through that house, that there had been murders in that little house, that there had been shootings, people fighting. So that energy remained in the house, and it was actually affecting us. We didn't know what was going on. We thought we were just going crazy on each other. And it had gotten to the point where my husband and I, we were trying to choke each other out. And it was like I had like this, a strength that I cannot believe because he was very strong. My husband was very strong. Still, my ex-husband is strong, very strong person, physically. And I remember for some reason he just came, he launched at me, and I was able to catch him, and I threw him against the wall, and he bounced, and I shocked myself. So I'm telling you, energy, and especially if there had been like several people through that house that had the spirit of anger in them, and being that there had been a murder and some other things going on in that house prior to us getting there. Remember, energy doesn't disappear, not on its own. And if you enter into a home or a place where something has occurred, and if you're as sensitive to spirits and energy as our family is, oh, it's going to affect you and it's going to take you back, honey, and things will occur there that you have never thought would occur. You would have thought that it was just pure supernatural things happening in there. My strength in itself to throw him across the room was supernatural. The bowl flying off the counter was just really supernatural. And another, let's see if I can transition you because when we moved back here to Georgia, we moved to this little part of town called Bellevue. And at that time, a lot of things were going on. So my then husband, I guess that's why we're divorced now. But anyway, he was acting up really bad. So my kids and I actually sold the house that I had purchased there. And then we spent maybe about 4 weeks in a motel. I was looking for another home. I finally found this home in this neighborhood. Mind you now, I did not know that this house was right behind a graveyard. Just keep that in mind, a graveyard. And there were these mounds that looked like, the only way I can tell you, like an old Indian or Native American mounds were there. And we moved into the house and I was happy to be there. We got a yard, the kids got a place to play and everything. And it was maybe, well, we had introduced ourselves to the neighbors and everything, and we've become very good friends with, well, cordial associates with the lady next door and the two gentlemen across the street. And one day, one of the gentlemen, he came over and it was a group of us. It was the kids, it was he and some other, I can't quite remember who, probably, I don't know, somebody else from the neighborhood. And we were all just sitting there minding our business. And the first thing we heard was like somebody opening and closing drawers in the back room. I said, I know, I ain't hearing this. And then it was my son, my younger son. He said, y'all hear that? I said, yeah, we all heard it. That's why I know I wasn't crazy because everybody else in the room heard it. Like the drawers were just opening and closing, like somebody was back there and nobody was back there. Eventually, we did go check the room. Nobody was there. And then another thing, we were sitting in the front on another day, and there was a fan, a ceiling fan that has never worked. It was disconnected, even through the ad. The guy had disconnected it because he didn't want it to short and cause. He fired the person that rented us the house. But we were sitting there, all of a sudden, the fan started rotating round and round. And the guy, he noticed it first. He was kind of deaf mute, but he could read lips. And he signaled to me, and we all looked up. So I walked over next to the door where there was a switch to see if it would go on or if there was some control to the fan. And then all of a sudden it started going real fast. And then it slowed down, and then it started again, and then it stopped. And we're looking at each other, okay. We're still not, scared enough to like get out of the house because we have seen stranger things before, like in the house out in Ricella. I don't know if there are Indian mounds or Indian grounds all over this area or if they were building houses on graves. I, I, I have heard that. But another occasion, it was one night, I was in my room and we kept hearing like sounds like someone walking in the attic. And it was one of those where you have to push the little square up and slide it over. And we kept hearing noises. In this particular night. My younger son, he was walking up the hallway, and my room was near the front of the hallway. And I believe he stopped at my room, and then he turned around and headed down the hall. And the door to the attic, now it's pretty hard to pull down this way. You have to push it up to slide it over. Somehow that thing came down while my son's still standing in front of my bedroom door, and it started spiraling towards him. Boom, 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 and it hits him right smack here. And the strangest thing comes, I'm watching when he's being hit, and I saw it like spiral by and hit him. I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm jumping up. But the crazy thing, that piece that came out, it had fallen flat on the ground. It set itself up like something set it up and put it next to the wall. My son will talk about it this day. I'm gonna try to get them all together and let them tell you of their experiences personally instead of me telling you. They would tell you more in detail because they were the one affected by it. And he was bleeding here and everything. And we were like, oh man, this crazy, this getting real crazy. But still, we're like, hey, we've seen a lot of stuff since we moved to Georgia. And I had seen like things occurring even when I was a child that to this day I look back and I can't explain. Like I've seen like apparitions trying to pull me through the wall. I've seen strange type creatures. And speaking of creatures, the same neighborhood in Bellevue, we were sitting over on the porch at the man's house, the man across the street. And it was a group of us, including my kids, some teenagers from up the street. And we were all sitting around on a hot summer's day. It was starting to get dark. And again, the guy who had the hearing problem, he had excellent vision. He was looking, and then my son looked, and knowing me, I'm nearsighted, so I could only see like some white thing run across the road. But they saw this creature that was first walking like an animal. It was white and it stood up like a human and walked across the street. And we were like, what in was that? It was just supernatural crazy. And so the kids, by this time they were maybe about 15, 16 years old. My kids, the two younger ones. And they had gone down to their friends up the street who lived in a house close to this little ravine in the back. Well, anyway, they had gone to visit them. And they came back, their eyes like, oh, why? I said, what happened? Well, we were sitting around in the living room, and all of a sudden the carpet started rolling. It came up off the floor and made a wave. And I said, they said, yeah, I said, yeah, this whole neighborhood has got to be haunted. So my older son, I don't know where he was staying at that time, but he came over and he brought this book. He said, we need to find out because Macon is sitting on a vortex. I say a vortex. He was trying to explain to me that all over the world they have like certain places with certain things called vortexes. And it's strange because all of them are aligned with each other. And so he said, we need to find out. He said, there's a portal around here somewhere. So we started walking and we went down this road and then turned down this dirt road in the neighborhood. And we discovered that there was like this burnt house there, but there was also like this well. It was like a openings where you couldn't see the bottom. So me being me, I grabbed hold to a brick. I wanted to see how far down this thing was. I dropped it and there was no end. It did not hit anything. It did not hit water. It just kept going, going, going. And to this day, we left there and that thing had not hit the bottom. He said, that's the portal. He said, the spirits are coming up through this portal. And then not only did we discover that, as we walked a little bit, we realized we were sitting right behind a graveyard. And most likely the graves that had come over into the woods were graves of either slaves. They had like 1800s or whatever. And then right, if you go farther, then you start seeing all these other graves. And I just assumed that those were where the white people put their deceased. But this neighborhood had so much um, activity in it, and we didn't get really afraid or scared. I don't think I have a fear factor to tell the truth, but it wasn't fearful. It was more shocking than fearful. I should have turned on the light. Hold up for a minute. I'm sitting here in the dark. But yeah, that neighborhood, it was very full of spiritual activity, and sometimes it's a combination of spirit and energy. You can have the ghosts that kind of like wander and they don't know how to go into the light, and you must tell them to go into the light. And then you have dark energies sometimes, like the one that caused that piece to come out of the attic and come towards my son. There was something that did not want us in the house. And the doors that we heard in the back, the person they had passed over just did not realize that they had passed over. They were in their home. They were going about their um, routine because we would hear the shower come on sometimes. And they would come, go to the room, open up the doors, I guess, as though they were getting their clothes. And that's what was going on the night we were sitting in the front. And there have been numerous happenings that we have experienced. My daughter's youngest child, he's only like 3 now, but when he was maybe about 8 months, my daughter's boyfriend was killed in a semi truck accident, and he was very close to the baby. So one day, she was sitting there, and I had seen him do it before too. When I would keep him, he would look over in a corner as though he was seeing or someone, and he would laugh. He would just look in the corner and just laugh as though he was playing or someone was motioning him to play. And we come to the conclusion that it was her boyfriend that had passed over. Um, Another incident that happened in that same place, a person that I had been very close to for a very, very long time. Actually, it was my college boyfriend. We had been together 5 years. And when I moved to this place 2 years prior to that, he had passed over. And his cousin came over to see how I was doing. And we were sitting in the living room having a nice conversation. And then all of a sudden, the blind goes up and the whole thing, it drops to the ground. And he's like looking at me because we were actually talking about my boyfriend, my boyfriend that had passed over when this happened. And I called out his name. I said, "Are you here?" And then something fell off of the table. I say, "He's here." I say, "Don't be afraid. He's not going to hurt you." And so I call myself, go get me a new boyfriend, right? And one night we were chilling, having a nice time. And it was in my bedroom. And I had like a coconut sitting on top of this cabinet. And actually, the cabinets had come from a place that was said to be haunted. And I pleaded with my present friend. I'm like, "Don't take these cabinets out of here. They belong to this building." But anyway, they were cute little cabinets though. But anyway, we brought them on to my place. And strange things started to happen the minute the cabinets were there. Like I left out of my bedroom, and I always closed my door. And I think that particular day I had gone to work. I came back home and I went to open my door and it was stuck. I was like, "What in the world?" And then I realized the cabinet was in front of the door. And I could not figure out how the cabinet was in front of the door. I called my son um, that was across the hall. I said, "I can't get my door open. This cabinet has gotten in front of the door." He said, "How the world did that happen?" I said, "I don't know." And so somehow he was able to push the cabinet out of the way. I said, "This is crazy." So we put it right back where it was. And I left again. Everybody had left out of the house. Came back later on that evening. I go to open my door. It's stuck again. The cabinet had moved in front of my door. I said, "Okay." I told him not to bring those cabinets here. So I called him and I said, "We need to move these cabinets out of here because something strange is happening. I mean, really strange is happening." And then I called my oldest son. He said, "Well, what you need to do is draw a pentagram and then put a circle around it and paste it." He said, "Tape it on the cabinet." I did that. Nothing, the cabinet didn't do anything anymore. the spirit behind the cabinet or however it was working, it didn't move in front of the door. But what did happen when my friend was over, it was the weekend by now, the end of my work week, and he was over and we were chilling and actually we were back dozing off to sleep. And I always kept a candle in that coconut thing on top of the that cabinet. But this particular night, I woke up, I flipped over, and I saw a flame like floating in the air over the coconut. And so, yeah, I was thinking to be crazy by myself. So I woke him up. I said, no, no. So he got up on his knees on the bed and he was like looking. And we both were looking at it. And I was like, I say, gee, if I called this name my ex that I'd been with for a long time and actually had my first son for. I say, go away, go away. I said, why are you here? I knew why I was there, honey, because he didn't want me being with anybody else at that time. And I had to ask him to cross over, or else he would have kept interfering with whomever I got with, you know. And so we ran, we turned, at least I ran, and I turned, flipped on the light, and the thing was still up there hovering over the coconut. But the crazy thing is, the coconut that was sitting up there, it was an open coconut. It looked like blood had come up and drizzled over the sides of the coconut. And I was like, do you see this? Do you see this? I said, you need to get these cabinets out of here. You need to get these cabinets. He never did come. He moved his stuff. But I ended up calling somebody to move the cabinets. They took both the cabinets. I said, you make sure you throw these away. And I was hoping and praying that anyone would go keep these cabinets nor put them in somebody else's house. Because when I had given him stuff before to take off, sometimes that person would give it to his daughter, which was a no, because hey, this stuff haunted. Um, it got some kind of spirit attached to it. And in the first place, we shouldn't have even taken it out of the building where we had taken it out of. It was an old closed down building that was downtown, and there were rumors that it was haunted, and I know for a fact it was haunted because one night I went up in there. Well, we were just being investigative type things to see what was really going on, and I was snapping pictures and everything. And lo and behold, in one of those pictures, up where they had like this glass like shower thing, there was a face in it. And then we were so bold that we say, okay, we go stay the night in here. We bad. So I went to sleep. I was awakened. And when I opened my eyes, there were like these five spirits, and they were dressed in maybe like they were in the 1800s or something like that, and they were standing there, and they weren't harming. I didn't sense they were that they were harmful, but I know one of them spoke. I could hear it in my mind. It wasn't like the kind of speech that we do, but it was like I think they asked me why I was there because they were familiar with the other person that was with me being there. Because the guy had told me that he would set up like a computer in there because it still had electric in some of the places. And he said his computer would just turn off, or he would leave and the mouse or something would be moved. And he kind of figured that it had activity in the building and go on. But soon after, the spirits, they kind of vanished. And so the next morning, I wanted to walk throughout the building and feel, and there were like cold spots in there, like some spots were just really cold, make the hairs up on the back of your neck stand up. And I walked towards this old exit door, and there was like this cold um, feeling in the air. And he said, "You feeling it, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "It feel cold." I said, "It does." And so I kept snapping pictures, and then I let him snap pictures of me. When I look back on those pictures, there was an apparition with an army uniform, as though he was walking in that direction behind me. And we had some video too when he walked behind me. And we then went to another room where I was recording. And he said that there had been some activity in that room. And what I saw was it was a girl. She looked like she was biracial, and looked like they were in a plantation house. And she was there, and she had on like this white high collar, like they dressed in way back in the day or something like slave days, except she was in the house. And I could see her, and she had this long, thick mane of hair. It was curly and it was black. And she was looking out the window as though she wanted to escape or to leave. But she kept looking out of the window. Like, when is this ever going to be over? Because we know now that some of the house slaves were severely punished. Therefore, the mistress always covered them, their clothes, long sleeves, high things, because the mistresses were sometimes very brutal. They would burn them, cut them. Um, this was on a daily basis. And it was strange because the field hands, yeah, they might get hit with a whip if they didn't do what the master wanted them to do out in the field, but it wasn't like a constant or everyday thing. But the house, what they call the house nigga, they went through very severe torture at the hands of the mistress, whereas every day they were hit, they were punched, they were slapped, especially the children that were in the house that were servants. They were abused almost on a daily basis. So some of the older ones, the females, they made sure that they were dressed very elegantly, but they were all covered, their arms all the way up to their neck as to cover their scars. But this girl, she was in there, the apparition, and it was like she just kept looking back and kept looking back like she wanted to just escape. But yes, there is, this is a spiritual plane. Uh, there are things other than the physical. There are those that have passed over. Energy does not die. Energy continues on and on, just like I'm speaking right now. That's why you have to be careful about what you speak, because once it leaves your mouth, it goes on and on and on. And someone told me they could hear the voices of the past And I believe that too, because when you let some out, where else is the sound going to go? Hmm. It can't go into outer space, so it just kind of like there's a constant noise, like a humming of the earth, voices from the past resounding. But I thought I'd tell you a little bit about activity to do with energy and the spirit that I have experienced. Some of my friends have, some of my children have. And I talked to my daughter, and we're supposed to get together so she can come in and tell you about some of her experiences. And I thank you so much for stopping in. And if you have any stories or want to write a little short something in the comments, please do. Hit the like button, hit the bell so you can get notifications. So when I do get the people that were with me, I think I can find most of them because some of them were my kids, some of them were neighbor people that experienced and saw these things. And I might even get brave enough to walk back to that well that we saw behind that graveyard one day when the summer comes or when the spring comes and let you guys actually see it for yourself. But thank you for stopping in to Colored Roses and Thorns, and y'all have a great, great day.